Dear friends, in this video, let us try to understand the character of Mr. Kurtz in one of the famous novels by Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness. The character of Kurtz is like a riddle. Conrad's portrayal of Mr. Kurtz in The Heart of Darkness is one of Conrad's greatest achievements in the field of characterization. And yet, Mr. Kurtz remains a mysterious and elusive person whom we are not able to understand fully. The portrayal of Mr. Kurtz in The Heart of Darkness is one of the greatest riddles in the whole range of Conrad's fiction. While Conrad has certainly delineated Mr. Kurtz in a manner which fascinates us, we cannot claim that we have been able to understand the mind of Mr. Kurtz. And we cannot assert that Conrad has made Mr. Kurtz live before us. We cannot, in the case of this particular character, say that we have met the man and known him well. Mr. Kurtz remains a puzzle. Even though most of the individual traits of this man have clearly been brought to our notice. We first hear the name of Mr. Kurtz from the chief accountant of the trading company, of which Marlow has become an employee. Here, we learn that Mr. Kurtz is a remarkable man and a first-class agent of the company. The accountant tells Marlow that Mr. Kurtz is in charge of a very important trading post in the interior of the Congo. Mr. Kurtz is able to collect as much ivory for export as all the other agents of the company taken together. The accountant also speaks of the high potential of Mr. Kurtz, who, in his opinion, would one day rise to the very high position. Next, we hear a good deal about Mr. Kurtz from the manager of the central station of the company. Although the manager speaks about Mr. Kurtz's efficiency as an agent of the company, yet the manager is inwardly hostile to Mr. Kurtz because of his fear that Mr. Kurtz might one day supersede him. Later, we find the brickmaker of the central station talking glibly about Mr. Kurtz. The brickmaker describes Mr. Kurtz as a great apostle of pity, of science, and of progress. In the brickmaker's view, Mr. Kurtz is a man of high intelligence and wide sympathies. But Marlow can easily see that the brickmaker is talking about Mr. Kurtz in a hypocritical manner, and that actually the brickmaker shares the manager's antagonism towards Mr. Kurtz. Then, soon afterwards, we come to know some more facts about Mr. Kurtz and his way of life at the inner station of which he holds the charge. We now learn that Mr. Kurtz has a passion for ivory. Next to ivory, his greatest concern is his intended girl. Even greater than his love for his fiancée and greater than his passion for ivory is the fascination which the wilderness soon begins to exercise upon Mr. Kurtz. The wilderness seems to have penetrated into the very being of Mr. Kurtz. The wilderness has caressed him, has loved him, has embraced him, has entered his blood, has consumed his flesh, and has taken complete possession of his soul. In his early life, Mr. Kurtz had been a man of sound views and an enlightened outlook upon life. All Europe had contributed to the making of him. On one occasion, he had written a pamphlet in which he had argued that the white man had the great responsibility towards the savages who recognized his superior abilities and gifts. In the eyes of the savages, the white man was a kind of God, and therefore, according to Mr. Kurtz's original way of thinking, the white man could do a lot to improve the conditions of life for the savages. The white man could exercise unlimited powers of benevolence for the good of the backward peoples of the world. But this man is transformed when he enters the interior life of the Congolese. This change in Mr. Kurtz does not mean that he has entirely forgotten his European heritage or that all the marks of civilization have been extinguished in him. The strange thing is that he retains his identity as a civilized man, while at the same time succumbing to his primitive instincts at times. In other words, whenever he mingles with savages, he becomes a savage like them. And on such occasions, he fully shares and participates in their rites and customs, including the offering of human sacrifice and cannibalism, and including the satisfaction of certain monstrous passions and lusts. But he becomes a civilized self when he returns to his residence at the company's station and resumes his activities as a trader of ivory on behalf of the company of which he is an employee. Thus, he leads a double life. He is a civilized man, striving to serve the company to his utmost by collecting the maximum possible quantities of ivory. And at the same time, he pays frequent visits to the interior of the wilderness in order to participate in the primitive rites and customs of the savages. When Marlow comes to Congo, he too begins to admire Mr. Kurtz after having come into his personal contact with him. Marlow cannot exactly define the positive qualities of Mr. Kurtz, except his magnificent eloquence, but Marlow does fall under the man's spell. Marlow had found Mr. Kurtz to be hollow at the core, and yet subsequently Marlow becomes a devotee of that man. Then Marlow feels deeply impressed by Mr. Kurtz's dying words. The horror, the horror. Marlow takes these words to mean that while dying, Mr. Kurtz has been able to recognize the evil within himself. To Marlow, it seems that Mr. Kurtz has, at the end, partially redeemed himself by realizing the horror of the evil which had been dominating his mind and which had taken possession of his heart and soul. Marlow regards Mr. Kurtz's last words as an affirmation and as a victory. After having heard these last words of Mr. Kurtz, Marlow becomes further confirmed in his friendship and his admiration for Mr. Kurtz. And it is because of this feeling of friendship for the dead man that Marlow tells a lie to Mr. Kurtz's fiancée when, in response to a question by her, he says that the last word spoken by Mr. Kurtz before his death was her name. The symbolism of Kurtz's character. Mr. Kurtz is not an ordinary character in an ordinary novel. Heart of Darkness is an extraordinary work of fiction cum facts, and Mr. Kurtz is an extraordinary person. In addition to what he seems to be or what he apparently is, he is also to be viewed as a symbolic figure. He represents the Western man's commercial mentality and the Western man's greed. Secondly, he represents the hypocrisy of the white man's claim of civilizing the savages. Thirdly, he represents the Western man's love of power and his desire to subjugate and rule over the backward races of the world, even at the sacrifice of the fundamental principles of ethics and morality. Finally, Mr. Kurtz symbolizes the power and force of the primitive human instincts, which may seem to have been brought under control by the civilized people, but which manage the rise to the surface if a civilized man has to remain in an environment of savagery and brutality for a long time. Thus, Kurtz becomes an enigma for the readers. Thank you.